Hey everybody, Joy here. This is my last day alone before my husband gets here. So I thought I would make you another video this morning while it's quiet around here and I can talk as loud as I want to. I want to tell you all something. Over the years, not just now, but over the years, I've been making these videos for, I don't know, 5-6 years. So many people talk about my arms. And they say, how do you keep your arms like that? And I never really paid any attention to my arms, but I think a lot of it's just genes, really. I told you, my family's all skinny. We were all just bones wrapped with skin when we were growing up. And I have very small bones. I have a little head, so I just have little bones. But another thing is, I exercise my arms. You know, I'm always flying them around everywhere. But other than that, I want to show you this super video that I found right here. This is Fabulous 50s. This has had 30,000 views. I've done the exercises twice myself, and I think Viv's done them. But this lady is very sweet, very nice. She's got 1 million subscribers. But this one right here that says flabby arms. Do this every morning to lose flabby arms. I'm telling you guys, my arms are pretty good at exercises. I can lift 2 5-pound weights and do the dump the pitcher thing. And I can do those backwards things where you lift your arms with 5-pound weights. But this, I can do about 3/4 of it. And then my arms hurt so bad I cannot do it anymore. But if you guys can only do 3 of them or 4 of them or 5 of them, just start. This is fabulous and they're super easy. So if you want it, here's another one, how to get rid of loose flabby skin on your arms. And I have some, there it is. See it? Yeah, when I wave, it keeps on waving when I'm done. My arms aren't perfect, guys. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that tip. But then, you guys are always asking me for sewing tips, and you say you love it when I give you sewing tips. So I'm over here cutting out a new blouse. I'm going to take you over there and show you how I mark my darts when I'm cutting something out. Okay? Stay with me. This is my second try at making a blouse for the yellow skirt. You know, my yellow skirt. I have now made the yellow skirt more of a pencil shape, but I don't like the top. I like the top, and I fixed the top by putting a bunch of waist darts in it, and I'll show that to you again. But I'm thinking I'm going to try again and see if I can get a top that I like better with it. So I went to Joann's the other day, and I took this little piece of yellow with me, and I walked around and around and around the store. I was looking for knit, but there wasn't a single knit in the store that had this yellow in it. But I found this super gorgeous fall piece. It's just cotton, 100% cotton, and I love it. It even has some gold sparkles in it. I have had these gold buttons for 100 years, and I've never found anything I wanted to put them on. Let me get them really close. See how they're kind of sparkly? And there's sparkle right here in the middle of these sunflowers. So I'm going to put these gold buttons on here. I just love it. So anyway, this is my Sure Fit Designs. Here's the back of it. You can see it's my paper. I made the pattern myself. This is the exact same pattern that I used for that other fall top, but I shortened it 4 inches. I have spread this back out, and it's not going to be 4 inches shorter, and it's not going to be cut on the fold. The front's going to have buttons and buttonholes, okay? So, I was sitting here doing this, standing here, doing this, and I thought, oh, I should show everybody how I do that. So, where's my pattern piece? I got to have my pattern piece to show you. Oh, it's on the floor. Okay, so here's my pattern piece. Sure Fit Designs. It has, this is the best way, you guys, to do this front facing. When you make your own patterns, you can do this. And this is wonderful because you don't have a seam here where you sew your facing on. You just fold it. That's all you have to do is just fold it. And it's wonderful. I bet you could even do this with a store-bought pattern, of course. Just attach it to the paper and cut it out as one. But it's fabulous having the facing already on here. Okay, so I have 2 darts. I have this bust dart right here, and I have the waist dart right there. Okay? So what I do is, and I've already done it, but I'm going to show you on the piece that isn't done yet. And I use weights. You know about my weights, my wonderful weights. Yes. These are actually nuts. I call them washers, but they're actually nuts, or bolts. Nuts. I think they're nuts. And I wrap them in, guess what? Grosgrain ribbon. They're wonderful and cute, and I love them. And you can do washers that way too. I have a video how I do this way back, long time ago. Okay, so what I do is I cut the piece out. Then over here on the bust dart, I just cut a little notch right here on the side where those outside lines are, where you start sewing your dart. So I just do a clip and a clip right there. Then to get this point in here, I stick a pin, a straight pin, in that point. Then, you know about my wonderful friction markers. I keep them right here underneath my cutting table. I don't know how many colors I have, but there's a bunch. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 colors. So I pick a color that I think will show up on the inside of my fabric. You know, the inside of your fabric's usually different than the print, so you can see the marks. So I have my straight pin right here in the point. So then I very carefully lift the two pieces apart. And I try to keep that pin from coming out. Ah! See there, it almost came out. So then I take my marker and I color a dot here and I color a dot here. So I have a clip here and a clip here and a dot here, okay? And then I pull the stuff apart and I take a ruler and I draw a line from the clip to the dot and from the clip to the dot, and it shows up very, very well. I also mark the waist dart in the same way. Now, I don't know how good you can see the waist dart here, but I change my waist darts. For some reason, let me roll this up a bit. Up you go. For some reason, my shape doesn't like a dart that just ends down here somewhere. You know, you start with the point here, you end with the point here, and you sew from end to end. I always end up with this pooch down here. You guys saw it on the blouse I was wearing the other day. I didn't have a dart in it at all. But I always have to go back in and continue that dart all the way down to the hem, all the way through the hem. Otherwise, you guys might notice it in some of the things that you make. It just makes this funny flip up part down there because it wants to be taken in. So you can see how I have drawn this all the way down through the hem. I hope you can see it. Okay? So I've changed the dart because I know my body and I know my issues. And when you make your own patterns with Sure Fit Designs, you can do whatever you want. But, as you know, you can take a store-bought pattern and you can fix it too, because in my case, I learned it by doing Palmer Plesh and Sure Fit Design, so I know how to fix any pattern now to make it fit me, okay? So, remember, cut on facing. When I make this blouse, I will do this. I will take this facing right here, and I'll fold it like this on the fold. And all I have to do is sew a seam from the shoulder down here through the point. I'll show you. Let me pin it. I love this. I just love this way. When I was first making these patterns from Sure Fit Designs, I was drawing the facing separate because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. But then Glenda, one of my blouses that I made, it was a red one with black buttons, and a whole bunch of people liked it. And they asked Glenda, how did Joy make that blouse? And so there's a video at Sure Fit Designs all about my blouse and got my picture there and everything. But the difference is when Glenda showed him how to make the blouse, She did this cut on facing. Okay, so play like I just sewed the seam right there on that facing. And you're going to turn it like you would if you were really making it. Turn the bend. Okay. See there? So there's your facing. All done. Hello. And of course you would finish this edge with the serger. Fold it inside. And so this is going to be the front of my new blouse to go with my yellow skirt. And this will have buttonholes and the other side will have buttons. Huh? How fun is that? Nothing is serged, just sewn on the sewing machine. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to join it at the shoulders, up here at the shoulders. I'm going to pin the shoulders together and I'm going to pin the side seams together. And I'm going to sew both side seams and both shoulders. And I'm going to mark on my low shoulder, I'm going to put a line making the low shoulder 1/4 inch deeper over here on the edge. And a quarter equals a half. This shoulder is a 1/2 inch lower than this shoulder. So that correction is going to get made right now. Okay? So that only takes a few minutes too. Both shoulders and the side seams. And I'll be back. Now, as I told you before, when you're putting the pins in, I'm pinning these two side seams together. When you put the pins in, put the pin in at the 5/8 inch line. Now when you've sewn for 45, 50 years, you know where the 5/8 inch line is. But if you don't, just guess. You kind of know where it is. You know what a 1/4 inch looks like. You know what 3/4 of an inch looks like. Just in between there somewhere, and take a little bitty bite. In and right away out. A little bitty bite. And you see, probably not. Just take my word for it. It's a little bitty bite. And now I'm leaving this open on the side seam, so I'm only going to pin down to that area. This will be serged. It'll be serged open. Why didn't you serge it already, Joy? The reason I didn't serge it already, you would think it would be easier to serge it before they're sewn together. But the reason I don't do that is when you serge a piece of fabric, it cuts part of it off. So my 5/8 inch line probably end up being a 1/2 inch once I serge the edge. So I sew it first on the 5/8 inch seam, then I press it open, then I go over to the serger. If I'm not serging it off the whole seam closed, and I'm serging each side of it, then I go over to the serger and I serge each side of it. Then it doesn't matter if it's not completely even, and if it cuts a little more off here and a little less off here, it isn't going to matter. Why am I not serging the whole seam off? Because it's going to be open down here at the bottom. Here on the side seam, it's going to be open for about 4 inches. So you want your whole seam allowance there in order to finish that at the bottom. On this design, okay? Every design's different. So now I'm going to take this side seam, and let me tell you something else. I'm going to take this side seam. Now I have to determine before I put these pins in, am I going to sew from here to here, or am I going to sew from here to here? It makes a difference because you want to make the pins be on top of how you're going to sew. You don't want your pins to be under your fabric, you want them to be on top of your fabric, okay? I always sew from the top down to the bottom because there's a bust dart there, and if you try to sew it the other way, you'll just learn this from doing it. Your bust dart always wants to flop open and sew weird, so I always sew from the underarm down to the bottom. So that means I'm going to put my pins in on this side, so I'm looking at them and I can pull out the pins as I get there. Okay, so let's go sew the shoulder seams and the side seams, and then I'll show you what I do next. Okay, if you are a new seamstress, you absolutely have to have some of these things. I probably have a dozen at each house. And I walk around all the time looking for these things, even though I have a whole bunch of them. I've got this marked on 5/8 inch. So I have sewn in my side seams like I told you, and I'm pressing them. First you press them closed, then you press them open. Down here at the bottom where the slit is, I have put the fabric on a hem. Another thing that you need to have is a hem, because you're not flat. And the garment that you're making hopefully has a curve here because you have a curve there. So when you're pressing and there's a curve in what you're pressing, you want to have something shaped like your hip or your boob to press over, okay? So be sure you've got some of these gauges and be sure you have a hem, all right? Now here where the side seam is straight, you can just press it flat on the ironing board, okay? So you can see there, I've sewn the side seam in. You can see it's open at the bottom. So it's going to be open down here at the hip. So now I'm going to go serge. And I'm going to go serge one side all the way down and the other side all the way down. If you don't have a serger, turn on your zigzag and zigzag it. Okay. Here you can see my shoulder seam is serged and it's pressed to the front. You can always tell the front because the front's where the bust dart is. Right there. Shoulder seams. Now this is the side seam where I told you I put it in first and then I serged both sides because it's open at the bottom. Way down here. All right. The next thing I do is the interfacing. The interfacing I use is from Palmer Plesh. It's called Perfect Fuse Sheer. It's the lightest weight that they have. I wanted to show you a little trick I do. When you're ironing interfacing, you have to have a press cloth. Now press cloths are like seam gauges and they disappear real easy. The minute you leave the room, they take off and you can never find them again. So I have learned to get a pin you can see, a big stabber pin, and keep the thing pinned. I pin mine back here to the corner of my ironing board. Let me move my iron. I keep it right back here, pinned. I can see that pin and I know where my press cloth is, okay? So it's always there. I leave the pin there. I take the press cloth and I cover the interfacing with it. You don't want to press interfacing without a press cloth or your iron will be wearing it. And you don't want that. Okay? Now you're going to ask me what iron I use. Well, it depends. I had one I really liked. And when Philly came, and this is so funny because the last 2 times Philly came to sew with me, my iron broke. So I blamed it on Philly. But the stupid things, after about a year, they just start leaking all over the place. So I always buy them from Amazon, and I always buy Rowenta. My last Rowenta did not have a tank, but this Rowenta does. I have a Rowenta like this at my other house. So this one's called Rowenta Perfect Steam. It's over $100. I don't remember how much, but more than $100. But I'll tell you what, it steams and it does a good job. Until you run out of water like I just did. So you have to go get more water. And it just takes water out of the sink. Nothing special. Nothing filtered, just water out of the sink. Okay? So remember how I told you the facing was attached to my blouse? I don't have to sew it on. So there, I've just interfaced it, and I'm just going to fold it over and sew it on. Is that super easy? I love that way of doing the front facing. I will have to sew the back neck facing onto it, which is waiting. It's right here. It has interfacing on it, so I'll sew it onto the front, and then that's the next thing I'm going to do is finish the neckline. I'll finish the neckline, maybe do the buttons and buttonholes in the hem. For some reason, I always leave the sleeves till last. I don't know why, but to me it just kind of breaks up my flow when I have to stop and do a sleeve, I guess. Okay, so that's the rule about interfacing. So let me tell you something else. So how long have I been sewing, y'all? since Pluto was a pup and before that. Guess what I learned today? My lightning fast mind. If you put a magnetized pen holder on your ironing board and you happen to get your iron up above it, it sucks it up. Just like those spaceship movies where they suck the people up into the bottom of the spaceship. I went, oh no. So I pulled it off really quick, but part of the purple got onto my iron. It looks like I already ironed it off, but anyway. Word to the wise. Keep the magnets off your ironing board. All right, I'll be back. All right. I have attached the facing to the facing. Front facing is attached to the back facing. After I do that, I go the entire way around the facing and I serge it. Okay? I don't serge it when it's in pieces. I serge it after it's sewn on. Okay? There it is, serged on the front. So this facing is going to fold inside. That's the front facing. It's going to fold inside. And the back facing is going to match up to the back neck. And I'm going to sew from center front all the way around this shoulder, all the way around the neck, forward on this shoulder, and all the way to here. It's sewn on. You all know you have to clip, especially the curves. You have to clip. So I've clipped. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to trim it to about 1/4 of an inch. So most of the clip part's going to disappear, so I really don't know what the point is. But I'm going to go trim it. You're supposed to trim it down to about 3/8 inch, I think. You like trim 1/4 off, but I usually get a little deep there. Then I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to press what's left of the seam toward the facing. See, here's the facing. Here's the seam. You put them together. This side is just the blouse. In this hand is the seam that I sewed and the facing. Then I'm going to press all that. Then I'm going to turn it to the right side of the facing, and I'm going to do what's called understitching. The under part is the seam. The stitching is on the top of the facing. So I'm going to sew really, really close to the seam line as far as I can. You can't get totally into the point sometimes, but I can get darn close. And sew around, 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 and around. And what that does is it causes the facing to stay inside and not constantly want to flip out. And it causes the facing to be in far enough that you can't see the seam from the outside. Okay, I just want to show you real quick what the understitching looks like. I did it in yellow so you could see it. I use a little zigzag. I prefer a zigzag. I want to make sure that sucker got caught. There you can see it. And I do it close. And so in here you can see how I've trimmed it. It's a little over 1/4 inch. And I've zigzagged it. So now this seam allowance and this facing are one. They are sewn together. Here we go. Okay, there we are. See? That's not pressed, so it looks really, really crummy still. But when it's pressed, you can see this will be the neckline, and the front is already finished with the attached facing. And so it will be buttons and buttonholes. And I'm putting it on over a blouse I've got on, so that makes it look goofy, but anyway, that's how far it is. So now, press it, buttons, buttonholes, hem, and put the sleeves in. Super easy. Okay, we're going to play sleeves now. This is the sleeve. The sleeve is supposed to have a 1-inch hem. So, I've shown you this before, but a lot of you are new. Cut yourself a piece of a file folder. This used to be a file folder. I cut a 1-inch slice off of it. I have these in 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 1/2, 5/8. I have them in all different sizes. That's a Louise cutting tip. So you put your 1 inch down here and you fold your hem up to it. This makes it so easy and so fast. I always fold my hem up like this, and then I go serge it. And I go serge it before I sew this together. Like that, okay? Now I don't make the hem permanent because the side seams aren't sewn together yet. That's just showing me where the hem goes so I can serge it, and then I'll still see the exact place that the hem goes, because once I serge it, it's not going to be even 1 inch anymore. But I need to be able to see where 1 inch used to be. Does that make sense? This is a really cool idea somebody came up with. It really is. I check it and recheck it. Sometimes it wiggles a little bit, and just play with it. Good enough. Nobody's going to come up with a tape measure and measure your hem. Nobody but me. I would. I've got my top on. Okay, so now I'm going to go over there and I'm going to serge this edge. And I'm going to serge this edge. And then I'm going to sew the sides together. Sew these sides together, then it will be a circle. Then I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and I'm going to, what Viv calls crimping. And I'm going to crimp this cap. I learned that from Sandra Betzina many, many years ago. It's fabulous. And I'm sure you guys know how to do it. If you don't, you can watch Viv's video. It is really the coolest thing, but I'll show you what it looks like when I get it done. Okay, I'm a mess. My house is a worse mess, and my husband is on his way. I had to stop the video because just as I was showing you how I did the sleeves, it took me 10 minutes to get these sleeves ready to put in this blouse. And I was showing you it's here. I'm sure I showed it to you somewhere in there. But just when I got that done, the lawnmower people came. And so there was all kinds of noise with the blowers and the mowers and everything else out there. So I just stopped. And then I talked to my husband and found out he really is coming and he really is on his way. So that means I have to stop because I can never let my husband see how I live when he's not with me. Beds do not get made. Whatever I throw on the floor, you guys know I throw everything on the floor. Well, it's still on the floor. The mail is all over the place. I've got returns I got to do to Amazon. The boxes are in here. My fabric isn't folded. There's extra tables. And when he gets here, it will all be perfectly cleaned up. So I've got to go do that now. But that's how I make a blouse. It's all done except for the hem. That doesn't take any time at all. The buttons, the buttonholes, and I can sew these sleeves in 1 minute a sleeve. I can sew a sleeve in really fast. So that's it. And if there's something that you'd like to know, you beginner sewers, just a specific thing, just ask me in the comments and I'll tell you in the next video, or I'll make a video about that, or I'll comment to your comment, or I'll do something. All right, Betty, tell everybody goodbye. We got to get this house cleaned up. I'll see you guys soon. Bye for now.